The Tuesday between Comic-Con and STLV Las Vegas Star Trek. Well, it's a Tuesday, and this is Trekland HQ version 2, and we are live. Hey. San Diego Comic-Con and my Star Trek hero. Today on episode 459, Trekland Tuesdays live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, coming at you here from the heart of Trekland for a little bit of sanity, clarity, and a bigger picture in all things Star Trek. And the home of Trekland Treks. Yes, your customized away mission to 4 Star Trek actual location scenes in and around Greater SoCal that you and moi have worked out in advance. I'm your pre-planner, I'm your driver, I'm your concierge for a day that we pick all the details and a quick lunch. And you have takeaway. It's an awesome, one-of-a-kind adventure experience customized for you. TreklandTreks.com or come over to LarryNemechek.com and check it out. Plenty of vacation time this year, plenty of Star Trek 60th birthday celebrating that we're just getting started on, gang. Hey, welcome back for another Tuesday here in Trekland Tuesdays Live. If you're a veteran, you know what to do. And when I say veteran, I mean I've been doing this for, it'll be 9 years. Has it been 9 years? Yes, it's been 9 years. Did we have the anniversary? I have to check that. Good grief. You're here. If you're new, though, if you're a newbie, you got to check out our chat, folks. Our TTLers. We're great. I do this time of day, every Tuesday or thereabouts, so we can have a global audience. Because it'd be very easy to be another prime timer in the evening. That's what Portal 47 is for. Check it out, portal47.net. But this time of day, we can reach so many more people around the world. We've got lots of Europeans, got lots of Aussies, people from East Asia. Occasionally, we've had South Americans and Africans on with us. Almost every continent, but Antarctica has checked in at some point. But I love this because it gives us a broader perspective. Because I'm here, as I said, talking about some kind of a topic every week. Sometimes we have a guest. In any case, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're in the chat. If you are new, just remember, if you're on Facebook, you're only seeing the Facebook chat. But if you use YouTube, you're going to see all the comments. You're also going to help my metrics the most. And you're also, if you are so inclined, able to throw a little coinage my way with a super chat donation, which I appreciate. Otherwise, I have my Patreon folk. It's a humble bunch, but that's the only way we monetize this, so I appreciate it, keeping everything online Trekland going. And look, if you're not with us live, if you're watching this later, not live on YouTube, love for you to be able to join us sometime on a Tuesday live. But if not, right now, leave something in the comments, keep the conversation going, alrighty? Love that. And yes, it is the week. That time of year, and it's that week. Thank God there is a week this year. Twice in the last 15 or so years, I can think. 20 years, maybe. There were Comic-Con San Diego and Trek Vegas were back-to-back weekends with no break in between. Get home Sunday night, turn around, and go back Tuesday. Fortunately, not this year. I thought we had a law, and then it screwed up a couple of years ago. Again. No, we have a little bit of breathing room here, and you, dear Trek fandom, are getting a little bit of breathing room with Strange New Worlds finally being out. And maybe you're even hearing about Episode 2, the horror episode, and not a Gorn in sight. Nope, something even worse. The horror of the mind. So if you were at a screening of Episode 1 and 2, 1 the day after, 2 a week before, Episode 2 is called The Griffin Incident. And if you got a ticket to it was a small screening. If you got a ticket at Comic-Con San Diego, you came away with a hat that I didn't, but a spare poster. So, yes, the knife, the Spock, the La'an, Kirk not in Episode 1, spoilers, and there you go. Don't know if these will be part of Vegas, because it'll be old hat by then, maybe something else by then. Nothing official at Vegas, though, probably because it's not licensed and the studio not taking part really on the up and up. But that's the dynamic we live in now. The Comic-Cons are the big table. We're taking a seat along with the other franchise opportunities. And so you'll see Paramount with Star Trek, Paramount and Paramount Plus with Star Trek at both of the big Comic-Cons. San Diego, because it's the biggest and the granddaddy, and New York, because it's New York and it's running a close number 2, or at least in East Coast world. It is, and good on that. Vegas, since they lost the licensing, not so much. You see individual bits popping up here and there. At least the licensees are back to feeling free to show up at Vegas and not feel like they might be under the gun a little bit. I'm just glad to see as many licensees as we have still that have found creative ways around what the new folks moving in thought they were going to revolutionize the world, and realized quickly that things are the way they are and they don't change that fast just by will of some executive's mind power. All right, I'm talking in circles. It's interesting, though. Happy 60th. Yes, of course. A lot of you may even remember the happy 50th, which was the biggest thing since sliced bread in Star Trek world. I don't know. At the 50th, say what you will about the movie, but they did have a world premiere. I love this. This is usually sitting in the back there. Stadium seat, right? This is what everyone to the world premiere of Star Trek Beyond got in 2016 at the clamshell behind the convention center. Big Conan O'Brien led the red carpet of all the cast. A live orchestra played the soundtrack as the movie was projected. It was a big deal. A lot of freebies. People got tickets to this if they had attended the May 20th event. May 20th, the hurry up and catch up promotional event that was just a couple months prior. So this was a big deal. What was ironic about the 50th celebration at San Diego was that Star Trek, if you think about it, and as I say many times, Star Trek missed its Hall H moment originally. The peak years of Trek, the 80s movies and then Berman Trek, that was all before Comic-Con became a thing. The Hollywood tie-in granddaddy of all the media cons, Comic-Cons. That passed. Enterprise went down a year or two just as Comic-Con was building. So all the legacy shows never had, as I say, a Hall H moment. They're getting it in drips and drabs, individuals, because for the 50th, which was a big damn deal, as a lot of you remember, I called it 5-0 fever. Everybody just went crazy. People went to Vegas. They added that convention too late from Reed Pop in New York as a tryout. It was a little late in the cycle, and most people had committed to coming to Vegas, so it wasn't as big as it shouldn't. It could have been. I felt bad for the licensee being kind of led into it. But we had a movie. It was a third Kelvin movie, but it was a movie. It was an event. And many people would say they preferred it to the first two. I know, jury's out on a lot of that, all over the place. But that was a big year. The thing was, it was the first time Star Trek splashed. And when I say Star Trek, I mean Paramount. Paramount paid big time. They paid, Spock was on the cover of the program. Now this year, where'd my program go? Not some, I just had it here, gang. Oh, here we go. This year, not so much. It's the events guide. There's a formal program that has a lot of actual writing in it. But from what people saw this year, instead of Spock and kind of an artful doing a live-long, not so much here, but look, the branding was all over. I may have shared this last week. So every single badge, no matter what your category was, every single badge had a Strange New Worlds branding for it. If you were at a hotel that was in the con room system where half of all the rooms of among 20 hotels or 25 hotels, a good chunk of rooms, half of the rooms were on a special con rate. And if you stayed at one of those hotels, there was a chance that you got a set of your room cards were ships. And of course, this was co-sponsored by one of the other big licensees making a splash, the Star Trek Fleet Command game, right? The Fleet Commanders. And there is a set of 5. I have 2 more somewhere. I did have the whole set of the ships. There's the Can you see the reflection there? Yep. Which was cool. So everyone at a hotel was handling these if you had a hotel. If you made it over to the Lodge, which was Paramount's promotional off-campus building, but right there in the Gaslamp district just adjacent, where all the bars and night spots and, yes, rentable storefronts are for pop-ups and installations, whatever all the current buzzword marketing terms are for them. You may have seen images of the Andorian playing sax, DJ. You may have seen pictures of Rod bringing the 3-foot Enterprise out. That was kind of the most authentic, organic splash of all of that. They rebuilt some of the Strange New Worlds bar with the coffin-shaped octagons. You might see those are the Matt Jeffries octagon. They're a little weirdly made for that bar set. They had recreated or rebuilt part of that. And if you were in the bar, you had some themed drinks, you would have gotten your Star Trek 60 bar napkin. Yeah. Roddenberry is not in retail anymore, but they did come out with, remember the 50th filigreed pins? I can't believe that's been 10 years. I wanted something that small and compact, but we do have these magnet bar set of 3 of these babies. This is the blue. The full set of 3 is a blue, gold, and red. Yellow, gold, and a red, right? So you've got the 3 primary Starfleet colors. So you've got that. This is a Roddenberry item. Anybody that stood up at a Q&A line at a Roddenberry panel or my panel on Saturday night, anybody that did a Q&A got one of these, which was kind of cool. I imagine there'll be more of them at Vegas Trek as well. So yeah, it was, for me, you'll be seeing this pop up very soon doing reporting for Trek Culture. We had the two panels that Roddenberry had Thursday, Friday. I'm speaking, very narrowly here. Thursday was on Full House, 500 people in the room, SRO, people turned away. The Friday design panel, same thing. Saturday night, I'm just going to give you my personal report card here. You've seen a lot of the national news, the Hall H. I'll talk about that in a second, but let me, don't do this. Don't do this. There we go. I have not even put this, Instagrammed it yet, but this was my panel that grew. Normally I don't do more than 4 or 5 people on a panel. I wound up with 7 because they're awesome. We got Dan Hageman here, co-creator on an EP on Prodigy, and the great Steve Welke, producer on Voyager and Enterprise. Liz Koslowski, do I have to say anything more? Enterprise D Bridge recreator goddess heroine on Picard. And Avi Mandelo, who you're not going to see unless you're a credits watcher, but is a longtime assistant to Alex Kurtzman, was in the writer's room for Academy. If they'd gone a third year, probably would have had a script by then, but he's a beginning writer climbing the ladder. Dan's on the other end. We had all these perspectives from the industry. Ben Betts and Amber Marr working in different areas of digital video. I had all these folks from across different, all but Avi have been Portal 47 guests. So if you're not in Portal 47, see what you're missing out. In fact, Dan and Kevin, his brother, were the open house guests. You might have caught them because open house is the annual freebie to the public. And of course, good buddy John Champion down here holding down the pundit world, because I talked less at this panel than I ever had before, because I had all these people in only 50 minutes. The good news is it's videoed. We are working on it now. It'll come out through different channels. My channel, the audio through Roddenberry, my channel video, and Trek Culture video and audio too. So we talked about Star Trek's future against a time of flux in the industry. And we did not have a full house because it was 7:30 on Saturday night, which I didn't think about. And we were up against the Masquerade. And we had probably 3/4 of a house people. So I'm just glad it's preserved. So my personal Comic-Con, aside from being a survival mission, and this year between 2 different rooms that I had to transfer from, my personal odyssey, you'll hear a little bit more about when a sit-down I did with Sean Ferrick for Trek Culture is out here within 24 hours of now. And we had some personal impressions from that. I want to finish up with that because everybody watching from home or watching the live tweeting, watching the news coverage and all that, if you've been watching here, if you've been in Portal 47 circles, if you'd been at our Trekophiles Tonight meetup every other Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific, which you get access to as a Trekophile for the Trek Files, my podcast for Roddenberry, if you're in the Roddenberry Mission Log Patreon, right, over Discord. All of my communities, we've been talking for 2 years about this moment. We're slowly lumbering toward. It's like so many other things in life. We're just waiting for the friggin' calendar to move along so we can make some changes or see what certain changes are going to look like and feel like. But as far as what's going to happen, and we know what the process and the markers are, we just don't know what the outcomes are yet. And one of those is the status, the future of the paramount change in regime, the status of who's running Star Trek, the status of will anyone be running Star Trek, movies and TV. And even more than that, what's happening? What is streaming anyway? Was it exposed by the strikes? How is anybody making money? How can anybody tell how can anybody tell about ratings and popularity? And how do they make these decisions? Why are we stuck with 10-episode seasons? What the frig is second screen writing? Will we ever get at least 18? I mean, a lot of things. What happened to the jobs? Is Hollywood going to disappear? What does that do for Trek? Those are all the questions that my Saturday night panel got into. So I'm beefing all that up which was amazing because it was kind of insane to cram 7 people like that with insight and instinct and experience into 50 minutes. But we did it. And at least as a starting off point, illuminating some issues. So that said, you're watching at home, watching the headlines, right? And I had been talking already, others had too, about what a weird year Hall H will be. And one of my 2 or 3 options, the one I thought would happen, was, yes, speaking of 2016, they did the same thing then as when they had a big anniversary opportunity to take a center stage and get a spotlight among all the other pop culture IPs that Star Trek had been absent from for years because Hall H and Comic-Con blew up at a time when there was nothing to blow up Star Trek over, aside from the occasional Kelvin movie, a couple of times, 3 times. And to good effect, the last one, we didn't know it was the last one at the time, but the last one was a centerpiece for the 50th comeback show. It was really like Star Trek's coming out party at Comic-Con. And they had the marketing down. They were a co-sponsor. You saw a lot of merchandise tie-ins there. The movie stole a lot of the thunder. There was a panel. Brian Fuller had been announced as the Discovery showrunner, and he led, without something more definitive specifically to talk about Star Trek, he led, stop me if you've heard this before, an all-star panel of Star Trek Legacy cast favorites from across the years, which at the time then was original TNG, Deep Space, Voyager, Enterprise, just the 5. And looking at this year, I said, well, that's what they're going to do. They'll promote the new year of Strange New because they have an hour-and-a-half block. They don't want to give that up. It's like it's reserved. You don't want to give up your room rental. You don't want to give up your annual vacation block if you can all but help it. So yes, 45 minutes of another 10 years later all-star panel with many more shows to throw in. And that's where you saw a lot of the attention. Anchored by the great George Takei in his wheelchair, but still very sharp as ever. Wheelchair for fatigue. And someone from across the ways, some people doing double duty. I'm going to chalk it up that Bob Picardo was handling Voyager and Prodigy. So there you go. And you've seen the news out of that. Or rather, combined with the Strange New Worlds panel, a lack of news, which was also going to be seen. People not understanding how the world works, wondering why there's nothing about the movie that's been commissioned. Even hints, not even mentioned. Well, the TV crowd ran this stage. Paramount is still not settled. Right now, the movie is just our 2 boys working on it. There is no infrastructure around it. So much shown that not only was there nothing said about that movie on this stage, but any movie news were a couple of quotes mentioned in passing right? With Daly and Weinstein at a director's panel where someone asked them a little bit. And our friend Tony had told me from Trek Movie, Tony Pascal had said, are you going to go over to the director's panel? That's where the new movie guys are going to be. And somebody should ask them a question about it. Nothing formal about the new, it's early. There's nothing to talk about really, except these broadest stroke comments. But it was easy to see the world was confused. Why did we get movie news 2 days early? Because there was nothing going to be about them. It wasn't the Paramount Hall H. It was the Star Trek existing. And there is no existing movie aside from being up here and in some file. So that all played out exactly. People are coming in the door, people going out the door. People going out the door are busy emptying their offices, more or less. People coming in the door haven't even measured the drapes yet, barely. So yes, no mention back and forth even, because there's no unified Star Trek message because the transition isn't finished yet. So it's one of those awkward times. And it went just about as I expected on a big picture meta level. Close at hand, all the feels. Star Trek was celebrated on Hall H. All the feels. And Rod's 5 minutes there to kick it all off, talking about his dad and his mom. His dad's legacy and how he viewed his role in the universe and what he would be keeping an eye on and being involved with no matter what happened with the current owners of the franchise, because it passes off, it hands off. But restating what would happen with Roddenberry and hearing from all those, yes, the glowing Star Trek testimonials from all of our folks, and then seeing a cast having fun. Nothing about the last season of Academy until, I'm going to say, New York Comic Con, aside from the fact that, thank you, Kareem, who was anchoring down there for Academy, we get the guest star. Okay, yes, that's what passes for news. Oh, and Star Trek Scouts has a second season. And there you have it. That was just about it. Yeah, as far as news goes, and which left a lot of people perplexed. Why was there no news? Okay, well, just rewind and listen to the last 10 minutes here. Pretty predictable, but I will say this. As underwhelming as the Hall H session was, especially for new news, a celebration of all things Trek, it was, especially that first 45-minute All-Star panel. Same as in 2016 for the 50th. The difference is, this year did not mark a huge return. Star Trek has been a presence. They've had that Hall H time locked down. We have watched it unveil. The last 2 years especially, I saw it firsthand. I saw the announcement of Tawny's sitcom. I saw Akiva pleading for people to send those cards and letters in and support year one, which was an odd moment. Both of them. This year, no odd moments. Pretty much on the nose what you would expect. Lots of publicity. The last couple of years, no one really did any interviewing press rounds, where they bring in reporters. They brought that back in a big way this year. Alrighty then. Everybody got to promote the 60th as well as their show, whatever. You had luminaries there. You didn't want to waste them. I will say this, as underwhelming as this was, everything else that was Star Trek was beyond anything that we've seen before. Can I just say that? The Lodge had to share time with the marketing place off campus down in Gaslamp, maybe a 10-minute, 15-minute walk, depending on the mobs, and crossing the railroad tracks in the mob. From the middle of the whole Comic-Con there complex. So it was a short walk down, no biggie. You were going over there to eat or probably drink or meet people anyway and see all the other marketing stand-ups amid all that. Half the building was South Park and Dutton Ranch and some of the Paramount game titles that are making a big splash. Out of the gate, we've just about decided that Paramount Games had the most momentum coming over from Skydance, and they're going full bore, and that's why we saw the Ro Laren one-person horror game adventure. So fast, so furious, so box ready, even as everything else is still settling in. The game side of Paramount, and however it winds up, is out the gate and on a run. It's the one aspect of the company that's on a dead gallop already and not dead. So that was the play, but you saw Legos with the captain's chair with displays. There was a Paramount Plus game place on the floor in the exhibit. It was kind of a whack-a-mole kind of console game for people Star Trek. The other South Park, other aspects of Paramount, other parts of the franchise. It wasn't a Trek-only focus the way it was the first few years, CBS All Access into Paramount Plus. But they've got Taylor Sheridan now, so they have another franchise. To me, a franchise should have been around longer than 5 or 6 years. You know, at least 10 or 20 years, but who's counting? Yay. There was that. The Magic the Gathering new Star Trek license card game. Big splash along with Lego in a side exhibit. Its own bits and pieces. There were sidebar auxiliaries to get into, to do. It felt like the merch side of Star Trek, the licensee vendors, had really stepped up. And so for people who are, I say San Diego's got the biggest lobby con ever. They've got outdoor carnivals and things that you do not need. You do not need that convention pass to get into because they're outdoors or they're in the lobbies of hotels and other buildings, diners, things. Star Trek was all over there, and it wasn't just your badge. So it was really fascinating. You had the 2 screenings of the 2 episodes. You had to get to that. It was about 10 blocks away from the heart of things, but you had to get up there. It was all good. And for the last 3 lucky people who did my stand-up to give a comment about the 2 episodes that you're going to see on Trek Culture, lo and behold, here comes Dom and Sarah and the Picardos walking back from a studio event, walking back to their hotel, came over and did selfies and pics with us that I have to post. Totally random meetup at Comic-Con, which was sweet. It was different for me personally. I was doing different tasks this year. Didn't get around to everything, even. Hall H was the least... If you're going to miss a Hall H yourself, this was the one to miss. But it's because it's blanketed in video. To be in the room and sense that, well, you got the vibe. Michelle Hurd's remarks up and down the line, everybody's, you could see that coming, and it was great to be there for that. The actual news, no, I'm going to make, and it'll be the same way at Vegas. You might stumble into something. There'll be some merchandise bits. Oh, Nacelle and their action figures and the bridge pieces. Don't let me leave them out. A lot of news coming from Nacelle more at Vegas as well, and some of the other licensees too. What I wanted to share with you today, and you're saying, okay, Larry, what about the Guardian Angel? What about your hero? I think I pretty much covered the perfunctory bits. So I'm planning all kinds of coverage for Trek Culture. And if you're not paying attention to Trek Culture, and even looking at the tech site, there's lots of good journalism articles happening. There's some listicles, yes, but there's some in-depth to those listicles for the most part. And some that are analysis pieces. And then and you know Sean. And you know Ellie. Ellie's going to be at Vegas. They've got some stand-up people, personalities that you'll know. Well, I'm doing bits and pieces for them. Not trying to take over Sean's slot at all. He and Ellie are kind of like the face of the thing. Tom as well. No. But as the American rep or the Western end, Maria's in the South and the East. Hopefully be doing more of that role. Sunday, and I'm using it right now as my HD camera, my good old iPhone. Between the heat and humidity, and did I just say that this year, as about every 5 or 6, 7 years, the beauty thing about San Diego is that it's only 3 hours from LA, and it's so cool. It's breezy. It's old school resort-ish. There's always kind of a holiday feeling, even in July at San Diego, which adds to the allure for Comic-Con San Diego, including for the industry people coming down from LA. It really is like a little, whether they come down for a day on the company dime and take a limo down and go back, whether it's a bigger exercise than that, or whether they're professional, but they're also big fanboys and fangirls, and they come down to hang out, which is, again, my panel. Thank you to all those folks. 2 of them making their first Comic-Cons ever, which was a lot of fun. Glad to be able to help out with that. But there's no budget for anybody, so they're coming down when they can. But part of the allure of that is it's not just part of what San Diego has over, say, Los Angeles Comic-Con, is that Los Angeles Comic-Con, you roll out of bed and you go over and it's just downtown and the traffic. San Diego, yeah, there's traffic to get there, but once you're there, it's kind of resortish, whether you're there for a day or 3 or 4. Until you get to the every 6th or 7th year when the humidity is just as bad as it is everywhere. And it didn't used to be bad anywhere west of the Rockies. So thank you, global warming. No, this was like Okie, Texas, Florida humidity. Everyone's drenching because the town's not set up for it. The first 2 nights, I was in crashing an apartment that didn't have air conditioning because they don't need it or didn't used to. So that was fun. But then I'm not there most of the time. I had shuttled back and forth between 2 places. Heat, the expenses of parking and all of that. Sunday, my day, and here's where this gets very personal. Sunday, my day to get some of my reporting and interviewing assignments completed with my new rig of simple, humble, but new rig of nice new tripod, some wireless mics, all using my iPhone as we do in the mobile world now, in the YouTube influencer world. You are light. You are, what is it, like a mean green and mobile machine? You do have everything in a bag that doesn't kill you to hang around all the day. So my iPhone, lightning connector, it's a little older, so lightning connector. I find out and wind up for 5 hours, I am not in possession of my phone. It's maddening to suddenly find out, as many of you know, that you do not have your phone handy. And then you start backtracking. And you go through, in a case like this, you're going through bags. We were just about to get on the shuttle bus, to head down the mile, in actual terms, back down to the convention center complex, where I had a whole raft of things to do. But instead, I'm backtracking, going back up to our room we just checked out of, to the front desk. Here's the thing, if you're on the Mac system, and Android has something similar, you can do, if you leave something on the system, even your laptops, even your desktops, you can do a Find My Phone. It was not pinging, which was it was charged up. It was fine. The mystery of why my phone did not ping was something. All my lost, function features to do if you're separated from your phone, I had them ready to go, but the phone wouldn't accept those until it was turned on and online, which was good news, bad news. But I knew that after we split up, I had to get down to the convention center to get the keys to the car that we had to walk 10, 12 blocks to get to the parking, which set this up. And as the day wore on, I started putting together the theory. After all my no, it didn't get thrown in my bag by mistake. The theory of the case was, it wasn't a case of being stolen, because it was in a very defined half hour of checking out, packing, checking out, walking about 10 blocks. In the 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, heat was just in the 80s Fahrenheit. No, the humidity was 70% on Wednesday night, on the first night. So you had that increasing sense of dread and stun, but I also had a whole list of work I wanted to get done today. But all I knew, I had to get to answers, and all I could do was get back to the key owner. After I got back down to the convention center on the shuttle, I didn't have a phone. I had an iPad, which doesn't work on Wi-Fi the way a phone does, right? Phone's picking up the roaming and all that. So I have to find a good Wi-Fi place that's strong enough to text, to set up a rendezvous. So you're doing all that on top of the existential dread about your phone and the work that you wanted to get done. And the fact that it's hot. It's humid. And you're starting to already, wear it. You want to be fresh. And you want to talk to people. and the clock is ticking, and it's your last day. And good on my buddy Lee, the one who got me to come to Comic-Con in the first place 20 years ago, when I had no need to go to a Comic-Con. I'm not a comics guy. They have more than... Even then, they have more than comics, Larry. He comes back up with me, and we walk the mile to be faster, 20-minute walk, rather than wait on a shuttle bus that we still had to walk from, or Uber for the millionth time, which we were trying to avoid, which would be hung up in traffic half the time anyway. We finally get the car, not in the back. And I'm trying to make peace with this and thinking, now what do I have to do? What does my week between Vegas and San Diego look like? But still, no ping on the phone. The theory of the case is starting to turn out to be, when we walked those 10 blocks or so, I took my jacket off and was carrying it. I must have thrown my phone in a jacket pocket and it fell out somewhere along the way, as did a button at one point that I'd stuck away, which made me angry and sick at myself for being so stupid. But also, it was a 10 a.m. checkout, a rush checkout when I'd had about 4 hours sleep the night before, because I finally figured out why nothing would upload. The video and the stills I'd been shooting. Finally got 3 days worth of video starting to upload on the day when we had a weird early checkout hotel, on the last day that we had to get, and it was hot. So on 4 hours sleep, I was not doing my contacts. On that much humidity, I was not wearing glasses. It was way too hot. So I had my jacket, and I took my jacket off to do. So it was a perfect storm of 5 or 6 bits. And I just finally said the only answer in that short window had to be that my phone fell out of a pocket that I'd put it, and it's been run over. It's been smashed. So if I could just ascertain that, I wouldn't worry about theft, right? It would just be damage. And hoping that I had the cloud configured where, the panel that we had just videoed survived, that that I hadn't yet uploaded, some of my pictures and video survived. That winds up being a very small part of that feeling. At least to know, hopefully, that it wasn't a theft. And I just go and download the guts, right? The contacts and everything else. So there we are. So we bus back down once we give up, go eat, walk far too far, come back. I do a guerrilla dash trying to do some things with my iPad, holding it. No nice audio. So you'll see a little bit of that maybe. Did not get down my big list of things. Did 2 or 3. Got out. Had to walk back because our shuttle bus, when we had one, was the furthest bus stop. It just happened. Get on the bus to go back up to get to the car to take off for our traditional post-dinner and post-movie. With just here's the inevitability of what I've got to do. And get on the bus. Well, my friend Lee, there's a seat right up front. Somebody only is taking up one seat in a row. He sits down. Other friend Travis and I are in the back of the bus. But it's like, let's just get on with life. I've got all this to do. 5 minutes into the 30-minute bus shuttle stops, I hear the front of the bus, someone yelling, Larry Nemechek. Paging Larry Nemechek. Is Dr. Trek still on the bus? I have something for you. And I'm like, that's Lee. And I lean over, and he's leaning into the aisle with my phone. Now, he had been the number that I put in when it eventually took, for the emergency call. I found this phone. Who is this? I think he's accidentally thrown it in his bag, and I went through all this agony all day long over nothing. We get off at our stop. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? Whatever else happens to you in life, may everyone have a day like this. In the end. Here's a very nice gentleman wearing a Peanuts t-shirt with Peanuts buttons on his lanyard. Definitely a Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Lucy fan. Snoopy. It's Mario. Lee is just insane, beaming, and he says, listen to this. Kids, what happened was Mario, his wife, and his niece stayed at the hotel, boutique hotel, across the street. The car park is here. The new bus stop that we use instead of our real one, which is much closer, is right here. The car is over here in a little triangular lot up against the freeway. And their hotel was across the street. Not the biggest street at all. Two-lane street. He says they come down that morning. His niece says, oh no, look, there's an iPhone on this planter with a ledge like that. A circular planter with a tree in it. And she see it's up on the planter's rim. And they debate what to do about it. Should they give it to the police? Should they leave it there? Should they take it in the hotel? They were. And of course, he can't open it. They take the time to not leave it there, not take it to the hotel. They take the time to call the San Diego PD. And they say, well, if you bring it in, we will impound it and it'll have to be picked up. Maybe you leave it there. Maybe you just wait and see if anybody calls it, or you try to make a call. All I know is eventually, after they reasoned all this out, consulted police, then along the way saw some real life officers. They opened it up on the medical, you watch a cop show, they opened it up on the emergency medical thing that cops can do. They saw a name, they saw a contact number. They call the number and there's no answer. This is at about the time we're getting on the bus to come home. And then they text the number that I leave, which is my friend Lee's phone. But we're in the middle of trudging and getting places, not looking at phone catch-up. So he's done all this. So we've had a string of amazing things here happen anyway. How my phone got up on the edge? Did someone else see it on the ground and put it up there? It didn't fall on the street and get smashed immediately. It was on a sidewalk and somebody put it. The odds of it falling out and going to a planter top are insane. But wait, there's more. This gentleman and his family get on the shuttle bus to come back up and check out for the last time on the Sunday. We get on the bus. He is the guy with a seat open in his seat, number 2 row, that Lee takes a seat in. And we go on to the back. As Lee sits down and has a 30-minute bus ride back, he starts catching up on his phone. And the alert's popping up. And here's an alert from me in my name, with my name mentioned. And he says, well, that's weird. And his about to be met new friend Mario leans over and says, oh yeah, that's from me. And Lee's like, what? And he goes, yeah, I sent you that message. Are you Larry? And he goes, no, I'm Lee. And he says, oh yeah, that's the other name. What? Lee is like, what? He says, yeah, we found the phone and we were trying to contact the owner eventually once we opened it up. And that's when Lee turned around and yelled back at me. We got off the bus. They tell me this incredible story. What are the coincidences? A, that I was stupid enough and put it in my jacket pocket and then took off my jacket and didn't think about being in a loose jacket pocket. Okay, that was stupid. I deserve that. Never do that one again. Sometimes the stupid, the perfect storm of imperfection happens. You have 3 or 4 things all load up to once. If it hadn't been so humid, I wouldn't have taken my jacket off. If we didn't have to walk so far for parking, it probably wouldn't have, the odds would have been less. All those things. If I hadn't been in such a rush, if I hadn't been blind and going on native site, I wouldn't have thought about not having it in my pocket. I don't know. But 4 or 5 all added up there. But then the odds of them finding it, the odds of them doing the smartest thing in the end, they didn't give it back, they didn't leave it there, they didn't hand it off to somebody else to take care of. And the fact that he called and got advice, he actually took his own time to call San Diego PD, and they gave advice that he followed, and then he follows up with some live officers, and they get it open to see, and he leaves the message and makes the call, which would have eventually got it back to us. But then, not the bus before, not the bus later, but the bus that we get on, that he has an open seat on top of that one of our party is sitting with, who happens to be the one that had the emergency number. Then we get off the bus, and on top of all of this, we're taking pictures. I'm like, I cannot believe, after I've had 5 hours here of, you have grief and then anger, and then what are the 3 stages of losing your iPhone? That's 3 of them. Stun, grief, anger, depression, 4 of them. And then ecstasy when it comes in, a karmic guardian angel hero like this. Then we find out that he's not just a Peanuts fan. He's very much, he was in Hall H for the Star Trek event. So he was there. So I'm like, oh. So I'm like, oh, apparently you don't watch podcasts and YouTubes. And thankfully he said, no, not really. Cool. I met many of those folks were at Comic-Con. Many Star Trek fans that aren't in this online space. As I always say, they just prove my point. I just don't have the metrics. So he says, yes, I'm a Star Trek fan. And I said, oh, okay, cool. And then I say, as I do, so where's home? He says, Riverside County. I'm near Riverside in Moreno Valley. I'm like, you live 10 miles from me. Now, granted, we were in Southern California. We were an hour and a half from there. But this just got weird. Then it turns out he went to high school in L.A., Hollywood High, I think. He went to high school. He was in the same class with an actor friend of Lee's that Lee had directed. Like, we had these connections. It was just bizarre. I tried to let this all wash over me. I tried to tick off all the coincidences and lucky points. After the first hump of lucky turns and coincidences, I would have got the phone back. But the fact that it was right there on a silver platter through even more wacky turns and coincidences, he leans over and says, oh, a total stranger leans over to you and says, oh, yeah, I sent you that message. What would you say? What? So I'm a very stupid and very lucky person today. And as Lee said, look, you would have had to replace it. It would have been a hassle. You're trying to turn around and get to Vegas. You're trying to process San Diego, trying to get on with Vegas. You might have lost some stuff of your work. Eventually the world would have moved on. And in a week like right now, of all the times in the world, this is not the week I need to take on one other level, which is, getting a new phone in. And spending it, doing a new plan, having to reload it, do the reboot. Just all that exhausting effort on top of trying to get yourself recovered from San Diego, turn around, and for everything Vegas, including a tour on Tuesday out to Valley of Fire. Of all the con stories I have encountered, this was the most humanly bizarre, wacko, amazingly, how many things had to align for that to go as it did? Even to have a happy ending of sorts, but just have a perfect landing? We're on the same bus together, 2 sitting next to each other. What are the odds? What are the chances? And yes, never put your iPhone in your jacket pocket. The loose one especially. God. Oh, God. But 10 a.m.? Who at a hotel makes you have a 10 a.m. checkout? A boutique hotel. Woohoo! 10 a.m. checkout. Are you serious? For a Sunday? All those Sunday night check-ins. Yeah. I know I've had some humdinger adventures and moments in just my con life, much less life in general. That's got to be up there. I don't know, gang. What's been your most stupid but amazing con story, fandom story? So yes, things happened at Comic-Con. I got blown out of the water on Sunday. Oh yeah, I got to get back to work. Got to get back to planning. Got to get back to turnover. But I just had to share that. Yes, learn from my mistake and hopefully buy into some of the wacky coincidences. Yeah. All right, gang. Let's call it there. I had to share that. Had to share, my own tired lack of judgment when I wasn't thinking. And then look what's happened. Let this be a learning lesson for you. Let this be the public service message of today's TTL. Other than that, gang, we will dive into the chat here in just a second. But as I say, as you go about your business this summer, yes. Happy Star Trek 60th. If you so get a chance at a con or otherwise in the coming months, if you're looking for jewelry signage, there you go. And as you watch Trekland Tuesdays live here and anything on my channel, please thank secretly or out loud, however you want to do it, all of my Patreon folk. My TTLers, right? That's Chuck A., James Kerwin, Diana Hopkins, Helbert Gunn-Janssen, Lawrence Todd, Chris Jiggins, Keith Rombach, Lori Ledford, J.R. Poole, Pranakasha Productions, Comedy Forecast, and Andrew Jazimski. And our live wires. Yep, Elizabeth Stretz. Josh Reeve. Sorry, Josh. Brandon Coles, Gary Williams, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, MJ Frug, Chris Garris, Dave Gregory, David Gall, Jesse at Crusher Convo, Donna S. Runyon, and Casey Shafsky. Thank you, as always, gang, for the little Patreons that I have. It all does add up. I appreciate you digging in for some bucks every month, $5 or $10. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. Keeps me going for the shout out and the sharing of links that we'll get back to. Oh boy. And by the way, if you are a fan of the Trek Files, if you are a Trekophile spelled with an F, aside from the weekly podcast that's right there at podcast.roddenberry.com or our home site at thetrekfiles.com, which is actually a Memory Alpha page with a player, audio player, and the documents of the week, the only podcast with homework, and the hot links back into Memory Alpha. It's a 20-30 minute podcast every week. Great for you. But also, it has a Patreon that's part of the big Roddenberry Mission Log Patreon, which is housed on Discord. $1 a month. $1 a month gets you access to our Trekophiles Tonight live meetup every other Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern. It's our message board system. In fact, it gets you to all of the Roddenberry podcasts and the message board communities and all the meetups that aren't even tied into a Roddenberry podcast. Some of them are old franchise hangouts for other shows and IPs of the past, of the current, and some of them are just hangouts, like our friend Paul's Kon-Tiki show hangout. That's the Trek Files. A new one is up this week. Again, Ben Robinson talking about those early woulda, coulda, maybe been, should have, not really. Next gen ideas and a format and a plan. It's Gene's reaction to it. Yes, you want to catch that with our good friend of the show, friend of fandom, Ben Robinson himself, author, and a lot of the new books that he's a part of coming our way. That's up. And of course, one more shout out for TreklandTreks.com. When you're coming to Southern California, you got a spare day, you're entitled to a Trek tour. There's tours for everything else in LA. This one will be customized for you. We're not talking about sitting in the back of an open-top truck. No sirree, Bobcat tail. We're talking about a customized for you that you and I work in advance, depending on your day, depending on what you want to see of the 50-plus film sites available around greater SoCal, which is a big swath. But we'll make it work. We'll make it put together a day for you. TreklandTreks.com or LarryNemechek.com and follow that tab. Gang, of course, all the socials. Larry's Nemechek on Blue Sky, on Twitter. I still call it Twitter. My corner is fairly sane, thankfully. Larry's Trekland on Instagram, yay, on Facebook. And, of course, here on YouTube, like and subscribe, do all the things, ring the bell. Please like and share it. And Porta47.net. I mentioned all the folks on my panel. Yay, but we have an hour or longer with all of them once a month. All the aspects of the industry you want to learn about, much less the actual specific Trek history of whatever show era they worked on. And we are increasingly getting the modern era shows rolled in as well. That's going to do it for me. If you're watching later, hope you can join us sometime on a live Tuesday. Keep the conversation going in the comments below, if you would, please, okay? If you're watching live, hang on. I'll be right back. I'll dive into the chat. Only after I say, everybody, please, until next time, when next week, big announcement, no Tuesday Live next week. No Tuesday Live on Monday. No Tuesday Live on Wednesday or Thursday. It's an off week because we have Vegas. We have a 5-day Vegas, and I have a day tour on Tuesday that means traveling Monday. Kind of wipes out the week. But we will be back with you 2 weeks from today. We will assess the come out of Vegas Trek STLV. We will assess if I have learned to keep my phone in my deep pocket. We will assess what the world looks like by then. Trek, hopefully, at least. And yeah, news about the Paramount Discovery merger being held up, at least until next summer. We're going to be dealing with all the ripple effects of what that means for future, if there is post-Kurtzman Trek to happen. We will see what that means for the movie that's in production, that was talked about without fanfare and hullabaloo in the middle of another panel. Hey, gang, welcome back to the crazy 2006 era. It's not the fallow times, but we're definitely in the middle of flux. What a great name. What a great alliteration for a panel. Star Trek's future in a time of flux. Yeah, look for that when it pops up. Audio on Roddenberry's channels. The video will be at Trek Culture and mine, hopefully this week. Be watching for all the news, headlines, gossip, everything coming out of Trek Vegas. Be watching for that Strange New Worlds horror panel, horror show, and episode. People that saw it streaming at the screening at San Diego knew all. But they loved it, by the way. The overwhelming opinion of the 10 people I talked to on camera was love, love, love. And if you have not given, if you were worried about Strange New Worlds 4th season, don't be. And if you have thought about giving it a try, it's still worth jumping in to try out. As for what comes down the line beyond Strange New and even Academy, we'll see. The greater future awaits us. All right, gang, thanks so much. Listen, until next time we cross paths, whether that's in Vegas or whether that's in the comments of my second opinion, which of course is out for episode 1, or whether that's back here in 2 weeks, everybody, please stay healthy, do all the things, watch your lettuce, and stay awoke. Check the sources. Trek well, everybody. Back scrolling the chat. Christoph is here. I can't wait to see how idiotic you guys think I am. Good evening from Germany. Back at you, Captain Calvin. And Duralta. See, we're global. Look how global we are. We are so global, we've even got Brandon in Eastern Kentucky. 9 years, damn Tempest Fugit. 9 years. Oh, for this? Yeah. 2017. Yes, YouTubers, come over there. You guys, the Twitchers are in. Hey, there's Chris. Yay, Chris. I'm still recovering, gang, from just the heat and I walked more. Yeah, I had 25. What did I do? I had 20. Oh, I can't see. I think I had. I think one day, because one place I stayed, it was either Uber or walk to the trolley. I never set foot on a trolley this year, which was sad. It just wasn't practical. There were a couple of times I wanted to get on and ride 3 stops, but I didn't even do that. But one night, Saturday night, our Pink Line shuttle bus was the last bus over by Petco Field. And one night I'd had drinks at the Hyatt, which is the second Central Hotel. I walked from the Hyatt all the way across. See if I can do this. I'm going to take a minute. We're in the chat time now, so I'm going to see if I can give you an idea of this. This is, so I'll just do this. So here's the gas lamp. Here's the inlet. Here's the inlet. Here's the actual convention center. You know, Hall H is on this end. Here's the gas lamp district. There's the 2 hotels over here, the Marriott, huge, then the Hyatt, and the Bayfront Hilton here. There's another hotel. There's hotels all over the place here. So this is Broadway, E, Broadway, then CBA, then 3 more blocks up was the second. 3 blocks up was the second hotel. One night of the drinking Saturday night, we finished up, not drinking, we had a couple of drinks. I walked I should have got on the trolley back here and taken it around, but I walked here all the way across the front of the center. Here's Petco Field where the San Diego Padres play, and they have events there. They've had screenings inside the theater in the stadium before. But walking here, you walk up and coming. So I walked from here to here, which is a 20-25 minute walk if you don't stop. And at night, there's no crowds. At 12:30, there's no crowd. That was a long walk. But it had to be the furthest on the end of basic campus to the last bus stop, the furthest bus stop in the whole complex as it was set up. That was my walk, as I realized one night. It was an interesting year there. Yeah. Hey, Gerhard, glad you could make it. Yay. Look at all our Europeans in today. What? Toss a coin to the Witcher? Okay. Hey, Jay. There is, but none that I can share. How about that? Stay tuned, I'll just say. Oh, my gosh. Hey, Christoph. Yes. All you guys, so good to see. Lori, hey. Good to see you here in the UK. Oh, my gosh. Chris, it's on sale. It's $4.99. Thank you, sir. That's very generous of you on top of everything else you do. Yeah. Preparing for your next GSA heat wave. That's German speaking. That's Germany, Switzerland, Austria, by the way, everybody. Not General Services Administration, if you're in the civics. What's going on? See, this is back at the early part of the show. We're ramping up. I'm glad we have this community across. It's so, yeah. It appeared to me that they modified number one's makeup this time to make her look more like Majel. You mean for the first episode? Could be. Could be. They may just be getting good. May have had a change in the makeup team. That may have been a note. Duralta, 5-0 fever. Does it have something to do with McGarrett 5-0? Oh, okay. Go old school. No, 5-0 as in the 50th. But Hawaii was the 50th state. That's, that's where Hawaii 5-0 comes from. Yeah. Hey, boosting. Yeah, it's a cute badge. I was glad there was something out there, but it's heavy. It's magnet. I just missed the other thing was so delicate you could just stick, you could stick it on like, see, you can't, this size, not, so you're going to be wearing this over here, up somewhere, the magnet strip. Yeah, but hey, we have it. It's good. And, Roddenberry's doing it. They're mostly, you get into a situation where you're with something else and you can get the set of 3, but there's money involved, but they can't outright sell it because they don't have a retail license anymore, something like that. But there you go. Where did you reside when you get the D, the Vengeance, and the other one? That was in our hotel. But again, Comic-Con San Diego has a system where they get about 20, I don't know, is the hotels, can I graphically show you? They used to always have the map here. There's 25 or 30 hotels near, all the way from the bay and the airport all the way across town. I never had to use it. Here's the talk amongst yourselves. This is scintillating video, but I thought I would give you a shot here. If they have the buses, it's online, but that doesn't help. Live prop for a video stream. Crossing the streams. Nope, they don't have the bus map in the program book this year. Anyway, there's 20 or 30 hotels around greater San Francisco, and that's why there's probably 10 or 12 bus routes that are color-coded. And, in the old days, there'd be like 5 or 6 or 7, and they've just added more hotels. But the thing is, when you come into that system, you're a hotel in San Diego, and you give up like half of your rooms to be at the con rate where they're affordable. And then the other half of your rooms, you're free to jack them up and take advantage, right? So the industrial players, the big people that have expense accounts, they probably get stuck with that unless they've got a real deal or they rebook every year. Anyway, if you were in the hotels con system, those hotels these are your room keys. Now, do they run out after a few days? Maybe. We checked into that room. We had that for 2 nights. We had Friday and Saturday night after I'd been at a friend of a friend's for 2 nights further out. So there was a set of 5. And any hotel in the system that was agreeing to be on the half of your rooms will be at this affordable con rate that's done in a huge lottery that are gone like that. If you're in those hotels, you got the cool cards. Are they? And it was called the Carte. I want to say it was in the Hilton family, but it wasn't branded Hilton. It was the Carte. Let me see. The Andorian playing saxophone was so cool. So yeah, it was all instantly that night, the night of the preview night at the lodge. I set up a special time with Rod, and we got over there and jumped in the 10 minutes when the music is turned off. We did our bit over by the ship. I think I'd even keep the napkin as a souvenir. That's awesome. Well, yeah, and then I grabbed a few more beyond that. Boosting. Yeah. Well, hopefully those get out around maybe some other cons this year. Speaking of whom, Philip was there. Philip, you don't know about my Sunday. But Philip was there, saw some of our panels and things. We didn't get to have our... Philip was my one Portal member at San Diego this year. We didn't get to do our live dive. But I will make it up to you, Philip. The round on the Portal. You paid for that. That's part of your member perk. Yeah. Yeah. Good to hear that. Yes, Philip Philip's there in San Diego. Glad to see that I took the time to do a group photo like that. Memories like that should be cheered. Oh, it's the custom. You might do something. You have to have the step and repeat Comic-Con. That's the trademark. That's the famous, infamous, iconic. Every panel, you might have sitting down at the table shots, which we do, and in the video. But everybody, that's a very long, drawn-out one. If we hadn't been in such a rush and had so many cats to wrangle, we would have tried to curl around and had, a curly one. Like our panel that I did on Thursday morning, which was the great Jennifer Muro from Prodigy's season 2 writing staff, and Tom Cosentino from the Orville, who's a big fan of Star Trek too. Thought it was cool seeing the Enterprise model at San Diego Comic-Con on social media. It was very cool. That's the thing I go, oh, this has been missing since 79. Yeah, I was 15 years away from getting to LA. It's not like, oh, I remember seeing it when I went in Gene's office. No, no, these are ancient days. Ancient days. Cool. Yes, I thought so too. Shay Films. Hi, Shay Films. Is this any Shay that I might know outside? Either way, it's cool to have you with us. First time, maybe. Alrighty. Cool. Yeah, it'll be out. You have to, it's a static shot unless they get really creative. It was HD, so maybe we can punch in and have close-ups, artificially created. Myth Dustard, you thought it was unique hearing Rod telling the story how he was put on top of the model in between the warp nacelles as a baby. Yeah, and it's in the home video. There's a little monitor running, and that's one of the clips that they have. Now, have you seen the video they recreated where Zell plays Rod, and he jumped? They said, oh, yeah, supposedly when Rod was a kid, he ran with the model at home, and he jumped in the swimming pool with the model, something. And then they recreate that with Zale playing his dad. Yeah. You love that I elevate the lower decks and the creative talent that's the foundation of Star Trek. Well, Lori, you're a recent convert to everything Trekland. You know, that is the Trekland point of view. That's not only is it preserving history, but it's adding to your understanding of the show. You can watch an episode 10 times and love it and say the dialogue and, worship the actors. But how much more is there to know about it? And doesn't it keep it fresh? Every time you learn, or you know what to look for in the way it's shot and filmed and lit and the choices that are made in every department. It just adds so much to it. And it heightens your understanding of the rest of TV too. But Star Trek. And what era it is, and how are the different eras different from each other, and how are they exactly the same? Yeah. So you're welcome, Lori. By the way, the video concerning the future of Star Trek you did for Trek Culture was definitely fun. The pitches? Which video that I did for the future of Star Trek? For Trek Culture. I did the Vasquez. Is one of them out now? Have I not known what's happening? Do I need to go see if they released one? Yikes. Yeah. I've been a little out of it for 7 days. Let's see, Lori. Are there any Trek Files online meetups that are early enough for the UK? No, I'm sorry. Like, I do this. But that's a thing that's skewed. We might do something earlier, maybe. I was trying to... It's on top of everything else I do. We were trying to find a way to have a meetup that was just Trekophiles and encourage some community. And now we have about 6 or 8 regulars that drop in variously, and they're there. Maybe if we did something on the Discord there at like this time on another day, that's just another chunk of time out of my day when I've got... Portal is a paid thing. And this is the live show, and we can have non-history people and non-backstage people. So I can have authors here when we do, or fans that are doing something awesome, or writers when they're on strike and walking the picket line, as I did with Wolkoff that day, Bill Wolkoff. the second day of the strike. That was awesome. So I'll take that under advisement, Lori. I hear you. We'd see who else we could get in. Well, it's about time, Chris. Finally on your computer. Yes, Captain. Eventually, somewhere, there's got to be now, especially now, there's got to be some video bit that Roddenberry's put out on one of the platforms for Roddenberry that has that little clip. It's really cute. I mean, he's literally like this big, and he's, the 3-footer is, I say that everybody called it the 3-footer. It's really 33 inches, so it's not quite 3 feet. But the 33-incher is a little awkward to say. Yes. So look out there for it. Hey, John X, feeder of clips to me. When it comes to Star Trek, no news is not always good news. Yeah, when it's dead. It's not dead. That's the thing. We're not in the fallow times phase 2. And there's not a savior director coming in to bring it back when everybody thought it was dead. It's not dead. We've barely assimilated. I think the tomato meter is going to rise eventually, the popcorn meter, I should say, is going to rise eventually on all the Kurtzmans. I'd not shoot to 100 or shoot to 95, but I think the needle's going to improve. Same way it did with Enterprise and Voyager and DS9. Just saying. Maybe not for the same reasons, but we'll see. The culture changes, our view, our filter, our lenses evolve over time, right? Hey, Astro, we just went through the peak years of Trek. Yeah, more or less. Hey, Mythduster, what was the crossover Star Trek to Marvel panel like? I hear Star Trek was holding up the Marvel panel. I cannot imagine having 2 big back-to-back panels like that. I don't know. I was not in Hall H this year. Not for lack of trying, but it was almost a relief as well, because the minute it's over, it evaporates. I mean, the good of it. The poignant moments are captured live in big screen, right? The George moments, the Michelle sitting next to George moments. Yeah. Maybe, but there will be a new peak. Yes, there's always, over time, been a new peak. Okay, Dr. Ghoul, you made it. Yay. Okay. Welcome, Dr. Ghoul. A Star Trek Marvel... No, I think he means the crossover. And there was a comic. There's been comic crossovers, but I think he means the crossover of Traffic on stage there. Miniature action figure bridge and the Lego bridge were some of the biggest news I saw on social media. Yeah, and the way they were presented and padded. The big Lego captain's chair, which I saw, but I saw it at night while walking back in an empty building. Didn't sit with people. Should have done it then, but I thought I wouldn't need to. Yep, hindsight. Hey, Glenn, you made it today. Yay. Maybe, just maybe, we, the fans, should make ourselves the splash and hyping up Trek like there'd be no tomorrow. Usually happens anyway, doesn't it? Oh, look. The only time I have bots anymore is coming in from Twitch, which is pretty funny. So there's a blocked one from Twitch. Not porn, just, annoying marketing. How did you go 5 hours without... Oh, no. That 5 hours was how long I did not have my hands on it. I thought it would be much longer. I thought it would be forever. 5 hours was the end of the agony. No, I probably went 10 or 15 minutes not knowing that I didn't have it. But the whole time we did that walk, I remembered saying I normally would mirror somebody's directions, but I'm not going to, because we were full-handed. I had 2 bags and I was rolling a bag for 10 blocks. See, that was the other part of it. If I had been closer to the hotel, I might have been fumbling with my phone, but I was full-handed in humidity walking. That's the other part of I didn't say that. I was rolling a bag and had 2 grocery bags. So it was like all the worst. It was the 3-way perfect, 5-way perfect storm of everything going once, cascading. You tripped over a map of surveillance cameras in the USA called Flockhopper that can let you plot your course to avoid getting spotted by the cameras. Nothing around me, happily. Wow. Did I watch S&W there on a big screen? That would be fun. Not this time. I wasn't in the screening because I wanted to be set up out front to catch people when they came out. Yeah. But I have seen it on big screen before at premieres and even Hall H. They didn't show an episode in the hall because they had that screening going on outside, and they didn't want to do a 40-minute panel and then a 50-minute screening. They wanted to do the big multi-face legacy actor anniversary hoopla. Your Trek Marvel crossover headcanon is that Nurse Garland from DS9 is actually Agent Peggy Carter. It works really well, including a surprise. Okay, that's a very tenuous crossover point. One specific character in one specific episode of one specific. Losing your phone on an Earth-like planet. I feel like you've seen this episode of Star Trek. Yeah. You could always tell who the out-of-towners are that were complaining about the heat. It was in the 80s. What would that be? Measure it in your scale. It would be in the low 20s in Celsius. Yes, Joel. That's why I had to celebrate the anniversary recreating Piece of the Action. Yep. Absolutely tootly. Sci-Fi Mombi Raid? Well, hi, Rager Donnie. Sci-Fi Mombi? Somebody needs to elucidate me. Speaking of Star Trek crossover, I hope for either... So, by the way, Marco and I are going to get in touch since he only lives about 10, 12 miles from me. And we have to have a drink or something and meet up. And maybe I'll meet his niece that was so smart and picked it up at the beginning. Could be. Who knows? And we got Christian in the house now. Here, the second shift is getting in, see? You are fine despite an incident in Seattle last Sunday night. Well, I'll see your incident in Seattle and raise you my incident with gravity in San Diego. And karma and luck. Nobody was moved by this amazing story of coincidence and luck and karma? Wow. Okay. The news from Comic-Con was quite small scale, but quite a few things announced. Yes, and mainly on the merch side. And hey, Scouts, Season 2. Oh, gosh. Everybody's giving the weather reports, even though I forgot to mention that. A happy ending, to say the least. Yeah. Crazy. Well, this is the first... That's part one. And that would have been enough with an honest person. That would have been amazing. But then the way it specifically played out... We wound up sitting on the same bus. The shuttle buses run every 15 minutes. He could have been on it sounds like, especially with them, we're not even out of state to each other. We're 10 minutes away, 10 miles away, maybe. Yeah. The prodigal phone. Absolutely. Well, Myth, I would say, who doesn't love Snoopy and Peanuts? What are you saying? It feels like despite the lack of new shows... Oh, you're going to talk about Star Trek, Not My Phone saga. Okay. Things are going full throttle. Lots of comic books, new web rooms, and Scouts. Star Trek feels really busy right now. We have an episode for the 60th anniversary. First time in 30 years. Oh, an episode in the week? Yeah. Thank you. This is what I'm saying. Just being rescued is amazing these days. And the pinger wasn't going off. I couldn't track it. I might have by the time but I didn't have anything to look at. I couldn't even look on my iPad because the iPad's Wi-Fi pickup is so wonky compared to a phone, right? I had to be somewhere settled. Those buses didn't have Wi-Fi. We were walking around. Eventually maybe I would have on my own with good people found the pinger. And then I would have been shocked that it was so close to me and wasn't in Iowa or something by then, or New York. Not done this yourself, but a friend of yours, took a photo of their email address and a note that says, if you find this phone, please email me, and made that their lock screen photo. Alrighty. Regarding your phone, the chaos, the higgledy-piggledy, and you getting your phone back. Eris, goddess of chaos and discord, was playing with you in your situation. Well, you're the doctor, Ghoul. That is such a cool story. It is weird and wonderful when things happen like that. Yeah. Praise Eris. All hail discord. Was this like a strange new episode last year? All hail Eris on Discord. That's so close that he lived so close to me on all the connections. I know. But of course we weren't in that situation yet. We're still all in San Diego. On the same bus, getting out at the same bus stop. At the same bus stop. That's the other thing. We were getting out at the end, and he was... Now, they'd already made the connection sitting in the seat. But then it just happened that it was his... Which is why he was there in the first place. It must have been right around the time, almost to the car, or right after the car. If I'd read that phone story on socials, I'd rate it as AI slop right now. Absolutely. See what I mean? Your Android phone shows your email address on the lock screen. Oh, like somebody else said. Hey, Philip. Yeah, see what happened when I missed you? Disneyland teaches us that it's a small world after all in relation to the phone issue. Yeah. Vicarious feeling of relief, Glenn Zober. Yeah. Thank you, Lori. The prophets are with me. I don't normally condone gambling, but Larry, I think you need to buy a lottery ticket. You're lucky. I don't know. Guys, I've had my phone stolen out of a shopping cart at my neighborhood store when I walked 10 feet away. And I had it stolen off an ordering ledge. I walked across the street at an after-hours, gas station bodega in New York City. But at the little order window after they've shut the main doors, and I get a couple sweet thing, a candy bar and a honey bun or something. I get it from the guy that I knew well. I walk about 10 or 15 feet, and I go, oh, I didn't have my car. I walk back to the ledge, and there had been 2 or 3 guys hanging to the side. And the minute I walked away, they grabbed it because it wasn't there. Like literally 20 seconds later. And what do you do when it's 11:30 and there's the night, and the guy's in the window and they're there? And I said, any of you guys happen to see... I didn't accuse anybody of anything. I just said, any of you guys happen to see phone here with it may have still had the Star Trek Into Darkness back cover on the phone before one of the OU ones. And they were like, nope. Well, guess what? I got back to my desktop and my pad, and I did have the pinger on, and they did have it. And I could go exactly to the house over in Glendale or Pasadena, forget which. I could go right to the house where it was pinging from. And I went by just to check the neighborhood out. It was an apartment building with a door that had a stair up to... And I'm like, do I really... I called the police, and they're like, well, there was something about they couldn't really get involved, or there was some loophole. And they were like, but I advise you just to get on your phone and don't go in there yourself. It could go wrong. And I'm like, I don't have an... Yeah. So I didn't push that. But that was a case where I knew exactly where it was. But I turned it off. I wiped it and went to get a new one. So, they would have had to jump through hoops to make something out of it. So I've had a couple of... And then I had one stolen off a dinner table sitting right next to me on the edge of a table with 2 other people in Plano, Texas, right on the way to the restroom and it was dark. It was this barbecue and, beer place. sports bar barbecue, and people were, but not trashy, not a biker, people in suits were eating in there, and people were walking back and forth. And at one point at dinner, I reached down to get my phone right next to my plate near the edge of the table, and it was gone. And the wait staff and all of us, we looked all over the ground. We looked at adjoining tables. If it got knocked off, they pulled out the trash cans to look. Somebody just walked along and lifted it. About 2010. So I'm like, I wasn't being careless. It was sitting on the table next to me right there. From now on, though, I always put my phone on the left side if I'm putting it on a table. It's like little things you never think about. Always put it on the inside part of the table, not at the outside edge. I never leave my phone in the upper basket of a thing unless it's like buried. Even if I walk 10 feet away and come back. Hey, I tell you what, the first fender bender I had from a guy who was telling me to go ahead and turn, but I was turning left at 2-lane and 2-lane, and to come up here, and the guy stopped for me and said, "Oh, go ahead." And I was like, "Thank you." Well, the guy in the other lane inside didn't get that memo because the other guy was coming straight on and hit me. Like the first guy who had stopped for me had any idea that he could wave me on with authority. But when you're like 19, that's a hard lesson, and you get a fender bender. Thankfully, it was the 10-year-old car you were driving because you were a teenager. In that case, Pelder Joy, yeah. You were all in the same places and venues for the same or similar reason. That cuts the odds dramatically. Well, yeah, but who knew that it would be a friendly Fanish person who would try? I don't know. He would have, even if he was not a Trek person at all in his makeup. That was one of his things. He was an all-over fan. Wacko Yakko Dot. How do we get off on Animaniacs? I don't know. Thank you, Doralta. And then the whole thing was only about 5 hours, but it was the 5 hours of the last day when I should have been running around getting bits and pieces. Traveling in Denmark, and a friend left their computer on a public bus, and the bus driver on their own time got in touch and sent it to them. Yeah, good people. Well, there's the time we were doing the show for the Star Trek World Tour stop in Vienna, and I had the chance to, and the Prague fans came over and were going to meet us, and I was going to go to the town where my last known Czech relative, the Czech side of the family, Zetislav, outside of Pilsen, and we took a night train overnight, and they met us at the Pilsen station, and we drove to the little farm village, Zetislav, and talked to some people that remembered when the last Nemecheks left that town after World War II. My family thread left in the 1880s and came to Oklahoma, Nebraska and Oklahoma. And on the overnight train that you could kind of sleep a little bit, a couple of drunk soccer players stole my wallet and passport in Europe. Oh, that was so much fun. In 1999. Thank God it was 2 years before 9/11, and it was still not horrendously horrible to travel. And thank goodness I didn't lose like tons of money. But it was still your driver's license, your cards. It was such a hassle in the middle of a vacation. Yep. So yeah, I've had some things that were not my... Ever since then, Janet's like, get a locking pocket on your pants. Inside pocket, not your hip pocket. That's his name. Don't wear it out. Well, it's hardly a week off boosting because we've got to prep for Vegas and cram things in. But there we go. Pedro, second shift Pedro. It is STLV next week. So, yeah, this is Krista. No, it'll be middle of August before we get to take a breather. Cool, Lori. Hopefully someday you can come over. But you'll be watching. It won't be quite as industrialized as Comic-Con, right? But there won't be quite as many eyeballs from as many channels and sites and news sources. But there'll be plenty, especially on the fan side of things. Plenty, plenty, plenty. Joel, we'll see you in Vegas. There you go. Chris, 1 week from today. Yeah, 1 week from today, I'll be out at Valley of Fire. Ooh. Yes, Dr. Gould. Sometimes I bumped it to Monday, but since we're doing tours on Tuesday and I have to be there Monday night, nothing traveling here. Yep. 10:30 Tuesday morning. All righty. What are you saying, Captain Calvin? You read something on Twitter? John Del Arnos wrote something that made me think, what does Larry know about this? It's about IDIC. The deeper reality is that Gene Roddenberry invented this as a grift he wanted to sell. This guy, yes, Gene had a little thing that he wanted to... The IDIC symbol was meant to be a necklace, but it's not why he came up with the concept and formalized it that way. They had a little bit... We did a Trek Files on this. Nimoy thought, and it was third season, and Gene kind of jumped in to do it. But see, look at how much John... How does if you're going to tell this story, if you're going to tell the story, John Del Arroz, then at least know the basic facts that every Trek fan knows. It wasn't a trinket sold through a catalog service. It was Lincoln. It was his own company. And you could go to any number of existing YouTubes and podcasts, including the Trek Files, where we have done a story about this. We have the memo. I talked to Ralph Sinensky about holding up the chute while Leonard and Shatner complained to Gene, and they worked out a compromise. We have the Trek Files where Ralph Sinensky, before he's died, is talking about the day they held up shooting on Is There in Truth No Beauty while they resolved this. And he's like, I had no idea what was going on, but the guys wanted to. So they tried to shoot something else while they held up on that, off the plan. Whom all the boomer girls were obsessed with. This is so like a million miles away looking through a... Yes, all the boomer girls were obsessed with. Well, who else was there? There were no Gen Z girls in 1969. What? It's so oddly canted, weird. The people of the time, the young girls and the not-so-young girls, the 20-somethings and 30-somethings who, I don't know, founded fan fiction for Trek and zines and clubs and cons? You gonna denigrate them? The least you can say is that Gene was desperate. He knew Star Trek was probably not going to be back, and he was just trying to get one little thing. And it was a little icky. But the trinket did not run the concept. It was the other way around. Oh, God. He did not invent IDIC to sell the pin. He invented the pin after. Now, they got the pin to put on Spock's tunic and wear it. That's where it went there. Wow. You can take something and twist it around until you're going... But see, to denigrate and say, well, those boomer girls. Well, who else was watching the show and would save it for 10 years to bring... Did I hear about the news at the con about the future of Star Trek? Nope, I didn't hear anything very disappointing. Well, Pedro, did you listen to the first part of the show? Of course not, I know. No, we've been there. I was there. We all talked about it. It was probably the most underwhelming Hall H ever in the Hall H Trek era. You should go and listen to the Trek Files with Ralph for that episode and listen to the Trek Files about the memos that we have. I just love how anybody can take anything and just twist it. And did you hear what was going on? Yeah. Captain Calvin, you're going off a little bit on the deep end here. Diversity is what Star Trek's always been about. That just formalized that was a Vulcan that was celebrated for billions of years. The Vulcan symbol was one of the rallying logic graphic points of the first, generation of Trek until now. Yeah. Gee, Captain Calvin, sorry you feel this way. You can talk about writing nuance, more on the nose, but you don't. That's a core. That's a core tenet of Star Trek. Gene said we'd better get our shit together on the planet because we'll never live to be out in space and have these wonderful meeting aliens and all the cool future tech if we blow ourselves up first because we haven't realized how to get along, and we don't just tolerate each other, we celebrate the differences. That is what was in Star Trek even before it got crystallized as idic. The practical application was the pin. Nimoy thought it was a little garish wearing the pin out of the blue suddenly. But then everything about Vulcans is out of the blue when it's first said. Everything about Klingons is out of the blue until it's first done. Not everything is in the writer's guide to launch a show, Okay, Captain Calvin, if you were just repeating his stuff, a piece of that is true, but the 90% that is mostly his taking a tone and inference from what all that is and means is not. And I've already said why. And I'm going to take this to mean that you don't ascribe to the same feelings there. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me. Tuesday. Yes. Episode 1 very well handled. You mean they well handled it or my second opinion well handled? Did everyone love season 4 episode 1? I thought it was very classic Trek in many ways. Yeah. Did you see my second opinion yet? That's where everything I said. We're so global, we got Duralta and Cal on YouTube and Twitch, who are the same, making me feel like I'm a split personality. Dr. Alta and Captain Cat. There you go. Loved it, Laurie in the UK. So, Larry, is this it for exciting Star Trek announcements? I'm still waiting for something interesting either in terms of shows or physical media. There was the merch. As I said, I think the announcements are going to happen at New York Comic Con in October after the Kurtzman deal is allowed to completely legally end, whether that's August or September. Just saying. It's also more time for things to settle in. People are voting for episode 1. There we go. Yeah, there's been a lot of cancels, Chris. Column canceled. Roz canceled. Rosalind Chow canceled when Column did. Week ago, you braved your health anxiety and nervous system issues to collect some old Star Trek and Star Wars magazines I haven't read yet from a deep pile. Well, good for you, Pedro. That sounds like that was a moment you stepped up. A lot of heavy lifting and sorting. Good for you. That complex looks very big. Yeah. I told Sean on Trek Culture, I was trying to put it in global terms, since where we've been lately. It was like if you had 2 American World Cup matches, the Brits and Europeans and Aussies and everybody, Japanese, everybody in Asia, they were going bonkers about how big American stadiums were because they were for football and they hold 100,000 people. But if you had 2 of those games and the crowds and the circus outside going, that's about what Comic-Con's like for 5 days of actual events. Then you've got the setup and the teardown, In retrospect, you think you should have put the newer issues you haven't read at the top instead of at the bottom. There you go. Jay Treadwell. Well, hi. Jay, I think that's a new name for us. If this is your first time, welcome. You found your way here. If not, or if you've been a long time lurker, it's all cool. But you popped up here, so I'm smiling back. You just finished reading Star Trek Magazine issue 130 from early 2007? That's the sweet spot before the awful stuff came later on. Are you kidding? We were in a you answered a question about the Voyager episode Unity. Great episode. Okay. Wasn't perfect, but extremely enjoyable. I watched it and did my thing about a week ago. I need to get ahead because I hate it when they release a new series right in the middle of Double Con time because you have to get ahead. FedCon has announced its first 2 guests for 2026, Gates McFadden and Nicole DeBoer. Gerhardt, I'll again try to rally demand for an invitation to Dr. Trek to Bond. Oh, you go, Gerhardt. I should jump in and do something on my end, too. Is Portal 47 named after the rule of Acquisition 47 that says don't trust a man wearing a better suit than your own? No, Portal 47 is named for Portal as a gateway, and 47 because it's the Star Trek 47. The most common random number in the universe. Or the most random common number in the universe. Think about it. You also answer a question about why Star Trek VI's Valeris has the wrong uniform. You would think Nick Meyer would have paid attention to that one. You know how many hundreds of those I did over the years? I watched Hawaii Five-0 with the guy from Moonlighting. Not Bruce Willis, that was Moonlight. Oh, Alice O'Loughlin or so. He played the new McGarrett in the new TV show on the DVD. An episode of the original show was included, and boy, compared to the latest 5-0, the original was slow. Captain Calvin, it was the 60s? Have you watched any other TV from the... And Hawaii Five-0 was a high-quality drama. It's hard. ADHD culture. TNG looks slow to a lot of people. You also wrote about Of Gods and Men, directed by Tim Russ. Yeah, that was all. We were desperate for stuff to happen. We were 2 years into the fallow years. My slip of the tongue in Second Opinion, La'an is a Noonien Sung. I did, huh? And Scott didn't catch either. We were on a little bit of a dead run to get done. Yep. She's a Sung type augment. Thank you, Lori. Thank you. Funniest quote you read came from Nicole DeBoer, who said they shouldn't make any new Trek for 10 years, and when they do it, it should be a Captain Ezri tax show. She's right about the first prediction anyway. Don't mind the Doctor Who ref by Pelia, as Doctor Who has made a lot of Star Trek in years past. There's one or two, right? We did this. James Kerwin and I did this on a canon smoothing panel at Vegas or WonderCon or somewhere. Yes. Also, I had no idea until I read that magazine. The original pitched and did art for a TNG animated series. That was Dave Rossi. Yes. And the guys out of Rick's office. It was going to be on the original StarTrek.com in 5-minute episodes, and a 30-minute 6 episodes would be an arc chapter. And they put it online. Star Trek Final Frontier, I think it is. It was going to happen, but then StarTrek.com blew up, unrelated to Rick's contract running out. See, allowing Rick's contract to run out, same way as allowing Alex Kurtzman's contract to run out. You don't want to get sued for violating contract times. Berman was worried about diluting the IP with silly animated shows. Just cast Carol Kane in Doctor Who and have them keep the same accent as Strange New. Yeah. For you, Gerhardt, the big question is whether they managed to pay off the Doctor Who references somehow before the end of SNW. Well, they got a lot to worry about before the end of SNW. If yes, great. If not, they should have cut all references from Senior 4. Yes, that is kind of what I was trying to say without being so blunt about it. In my second opinion, I'm like, The cute is over. Are we really going to drag this out? Because there's no payoff. They had that buzz a year ago. They even did it. Russell T. Davis and Alex did a panel together at Comic-Con that I sat in the front row for, and everybody was all excited about it, and it was a nothing burger. Gosh, it would be nice. Yes, it would be nice. But I know they toyed with it. I know there was talk on some levels, but it never got to, because now you've got two corporate overlords to deal with. And at the time, Doctor Who was BBC and Fox Disney, right? So you had even more even more hoops to jump through to have something like that happen. Had no idea about the fan-made video of jumping in the pool with the model. It wasn't fan-made. It was fan-made by Roddenberry. Yeah. Oh, good. The Pitches. The Pitches video is out? Oh, it is. Yes, because Sean did the breaking news insert. Because, I was there. I couldn't do a breaking news insert. Well, I feel like we got everything on the list to put down. Most people know that all those old movie pitches are dead, but just to recount this dizzying, chaotic last 10 years, I wanted to have everything on the record. So there's dates and places and names all attached there. Yep. Have I seen the new Axanar film? Nope, I haven't seen it. Nope, I don't think Rob is secretly jealous now. I think Rob's got plenty going on in his life after that saga. It was 10 years ago that we had the thing about Axanar blow up, remember? JJ at that panel tried to look magnanimous and say, oh, we're going to make peace with that. And all the corporate lawyers are like, I'm sorry, we're doing what? Like, did you consult with us before you said this in public? That was so bizarre. But they wanted to have no ripples in fandom before that last movie came out. To his point of view, his agenda and goal was to have no controversies in Star Trek world. So of course they're going to say that. Let's just throw a little something their way and let them. And lawyers are going, no, there's bigger issues in this here. We can't give up on this and then defend it later. Somebody else, we opened the door to losing control of the IP. You understand about Trek Files meetups, no worries. I will join Portal 47 I hope. Oh, well, Lori, we would love to have you. That's the best way to get across these artificial boundaries like oceans. Haven't seen it, by the way, probably won't, as it does interest me, especially the documentary style. I forget the chain you're in. Oh, Axanar. Yeah. I've been here a few times. Oh, hi, Shay Film. Sorry. Been helping out at the Neutral Zone in Sandusky, putting the Star Trek Continue sets back together. Starting to work on the fan films. Is my graffiti still in the back of the sickbay set? I hope those didn't get painted over. Mean you like the old one by Peters, the one the stars from. That was the trailer. That was the crowdfunding. 20, yeah. It's just people talking, good professional actors talking against the back screen with professional CGI. What could go wrong? Sure gave the wrong impression. We lost the Stage 9 fan game because of Axanar ruining it for FanWorks, plus CBS was jealous of how good Stage 9 was. Well, what it really was, Pedro, was James had gotten a license up north, and it was a direct competitor, and they... Georgia at the time, they tried to get like a secondary license or say they can be walled off and we'll be like shooting set. But CBS didn't want to do a second license. That's the main thing. But then, yes, it was also the whole Axanar handling. That situation could have gone on for a while. Everybody else was cool except for you-know-who. And that's the ripple effect that caused the problem, which we all saw coming. But the CBS was going to be forced to do something. They were damned if they did, damned if they didn't. And either way, so what we had eventually, and a lot of people were mad about it, if it hadn't been that, it would have been the other direction, and people would have been mad for all different other reasons. Yeah. There's an old thing about don't ever make them say no. Like live in the gray, and some people can't handle that. friend of mine did read the X-Men Star Trek Classic comic, and yeah, I laughed at this really cheesy joke about Nurse Chapel saying Dr. McCoy and Bones going, yes. Dude, do you have a calendar near you? If so, mark it red, because the two of us, who are normally on two different sides of the topic, are agreeing on one topic. Okay. So I know there's a dinosaur episode, Strange New, and I wondered, Larry, do you think Voyager's Distant Origin is a hidden classic? I remember Jerry Taylor said, the way she said was, Distant Origin was maybe the most Roddenberry-esque of all Voyager episodes. And I went, oh, yes. Has a little bit of a wacky science premise to it, with somehow the dinosaurs getting off, or our dinosaurs getting off Earth into space, but we've seen crazier. Maybe the 37's aliens took dinosaurs first before they came back for the humans. Stumbled onto a video that Cardassia was the last station of the Voth from Distant Origin. That sounds like a really deep cut wacko trying to explain the reptilian look of the Cardassians. Distant Origin had everything: great script, great guest characters, great visual effects, great action, and a good Chakotay episode. But yeah, it was kind of like, who's going to be the point person here? It could be Janeway now. It could be Seven now. It could be two now. Doctor now. Let's let it be Chakotay. Okay. Well, good. What I liked about the Bella Oxmix Boss Krako episode was on the Star Trek 25th anniversary game for NES. This is a continuation. So that was almost the live action DS9, as you may know. And then they went to Tribbles for a second look. Star Trek Scout. Oh, somebody's going to tell you. I'm going to wait and see if anybody answers you, Gerhardt. Very funny, Philip. Very funny. Just because I didn't get your drink. The Star Trek CGI show for 2 years old? Well, it's on YouTube show. There you go. Well, but Pedro, what was going on? They only had 10 slots. I know. But it was a different world, different setup, different vibe. They were also doing 26 episodes a year. Good point, Calvin. If you believe the story happened, it's true. Happened to a good guy at a convention. So now we're into a Voyager discussion. Okay. Don't know if I want to veer off this late into the show into this deep, but you guys already have, so that's cool. That's cool. So chat folks, you can join in on this deep dive into Voyager here. How big is my phone? Why don't you keep it in your trouser pocket? I do, Pedro, but we were getting out of the room and I was going to keep it handy in my hand while we were checking out. You get it? It was a hurry up and rush thing. You're tired anyway. Plus, I'd had 4.5 hours sleep, okay? I did have a shower. I'm saying it's a combination of 4 or 5 points all. It's a perfect storm. Perfect storm was only 3 bad things. This was 4 or 5 things all acting, any one of which you would normally overcome. And again, in hindsight, I was able to piece this together. More than that, Scouts is also Star Trek's first on-screen project since Enterprise without Alex Kurtzman's secret hideout involved. That is true. It's Nickelodeon. Paramount Global Family brand. I'm going to let you guys have the Voyager discussion because I'm trying to wrap up. And it's a big Voyager discussion. Well, see, Miss Dustards, I've had a phone for almost 20 years. And that's a long time. Things happen. Yeah. But you know, something happens, you go, oh, that was a chink in the armor. I'll never do that chink again. But what happens? You're tired. When you're not all at your best. I was probably at 40, you know, and because I'd only had 4 hours sleep, I didn't have my contact. I said this. I didn't have my contacts in because I don't have 4 hours sleep. And it was so hot, I didn't have my glasses on. It was so humid and sweaty. If it had been 4 hours sleep and not so 120 degrees humidity, I would have had glasses on and been more aware of things and thinking. The lack of sleep would have been offset by being, you know, not at 70% sensory input, 80%. And if we hadn't walked 10 blocks, the odds of that happening wouldn't have happened either. If it hadn't been humid, I wouldn't have been carrying my coat and had glasses. See what I'm saying? It's like this whole stack. Now you go, I'll be aware of those things. But it was like, and if it just been the top pocket, I would have, yeah. It was any one thing would have been surmountable. It's having 6 all stacked up. And in a hurry. And being in a hurry. Externally. If it had been a normal morning, yeah. Incident in Seattle. Sounds like a lost episode. Might need straps for my phone like a Star Trek tricorder from the original series. Do you have one? Is there a licensee or an Etsy fan maker that's doing that? At least your German nerd newspaper said that there was a rumor that Kate Mulgrew could not return for season 7. There were 7 seasons. Oh, you're saying at the time. Yeah. Love Stargate, especially as it got on, but you think the Lost in Space thing closer to somewhere between Space 1999 and Voyager, whatever that could mean. Okay. No, you know, Matrix Zero Part 1 was not like Best of Both Worlds, where Patrick was thinking maybe. Okay. Well, I'm glad you guys had this great comparative discussion of sci-fi franchise seasons. Anything for me? Anything for me? Oh my God, Philip. Oh my God. Okay. You'll have that one for you the rest of your life. Yes, you will. Did you give him my best? No, I know, Rob. No, Rob for ages. Final word about the phone. I can't afford rent, food, and an active phone account, but when I had a phone, I wore a vest and always kept it in the same inner pocket left side. No, I usually have it in my pocket here, but we were gathering things up and yeah. When I took my jacket off, I should have taken it out of pocket. That will never happen again. And normally I would have the sense to not have to learn that. Again, I'm saying 5 or 6 things all stacked up. That's when things slip. That's when things happen. Aren't there like YouTube channels about this? Cheesy reality shows about when 9 things all happen at once. Are you saying his super chat empire is not what it used to be? Oh, excuse me, guys. Okay. Thank you for that reminder. Tick, tick, tick. Okay. ESPN Jeopardy across. Oh, guys, we need to wrap up. Okay. James Callis. Okay. I'm sorry. Sorry, Pedro. Sorry that you would. Why would anybody turn against a supporter? Duralta, as is true of so many people in this world today and using this ether space, the answer is yes. You can take a set of facts and put this horrific spin on them that might be a good story, but it's not the truth. I just, some people just seem to be born, or they acquire a permanent filter on life. And people, it takes the glass half full, glass half empty to whole new heights. Does that make sense? Going ranting on and on. We kind of eye roll and go, oh, Gene, he knew things were over and he's just trying to get a few bucks. But to say that he invented IDIC to sell the pin, no. The diversity is a core tenet of Star Trek. No, he talked all the time about how we have to get along. Don't bomb the planet and get along. Don't kill the planet, with pollution and get along. And we'd better all realize we're all humans. And we're not divided by species, or we're not divided by skin color or gender and all of that. Religions. Nothing divides us. We're all humans, and eventually we'll realize it because we all live. What's that called? The overview effect. When you get off world and you look back, you go, "Oh, we're all really little tiny guys on this." That's what he's saying. And if we don't ever get there, then we don't deserve to get off the planet and into space, because we won't make it. We will kill ourselves. Fortunately, he has numerous complaints made. I'm still waiting for the story. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that was one thing at a time when nobody, yeah. Flip side's the same. Hispanic writer coin, him on the conservative side, I mean the liberal one. Well, there's principled conservative, and there's just, I'm going to twist. Disappointed by the No, I wasn't disappointed. It was wild and crazy. We had a good panel. Panel side of things went swimmingly. Just some logistics. I like that the Trek Files episode explaining the Vulcan insignia in the episode is Nurtured Beauty. Did not know all the stuff with William Shatner anymore. Green Run with the director to listen to that episode. Well, you're welcome, Myth. That's why we do it. Not just to get it out to you, but to preserve it in the first place. Make it more, digestible. I'm not sure where Twitch has 500 signs, and I wanted you to. I'm losing you there. I see what you did there. Oh, the coin, yes. Using that thing. There is that, but then you wouldn't be able to project as well unless that Dyna screen is dynamic even in the heat of day, the light of day. I notice more people because I see videos. It was nowhere near like the LA stadium, but you see that. The thing I noticed the most was all the videos by all the Europeans and Asians and Australians and Japanese and Africans and everybody making video. People like shocked at yellow school buses. It was a great window on a window of the world. I'm glad it went as well as it did, despite the bozo that is nominally supposed to be in charge of things. Only screwed himself really bad at the very end there. Inevitable. I'm glad the ridicule and humiliation was limited to that. Mostly. And everybody else was just allowed to get on and show their competence everywhere else, because it was kind of a massive undertaking. Yes, Pedro. That's what I was getting at. But I think I have 99% of all my, files. I kept everything that I wrote. I had some ideas for that sometime. No, this wasn't a TNG animated episode. This was a show that was set 300 years in the future after a galactic cataclysm that was blamed on the Romulans, but it interrupted warp drive travel. Sound familiar? Yeah. No, this is very much from 2005, 2006. Captain Chase. And the Federation has turned defensive and guards its borders because you can't afford to let outsiders in. And warp drive is a real pain, if at all. The Vulcans... What is it? Oh my God. The Vulcans have left and reunified with the Romulans, and the Klingons. Klingons are, and maybe it's the Andorians are nomads now. I need to go back. But it's online. You can go see the writer's Bible, the designs, and everything. It's not TNG. It's an all-new era and characters. Just saying. Oh, wow. I got a religion bomb here from Facebook. Restream. Okay. Yep. Yes, rewatch Lower Decks. Well, if it's a professional fan film, that's kind of a misnomer. But yes. It's kind of crazy, but yes. There's also a confusion factor. This is all a little inflated, Pedro. Some of that is just protecting your IP against future lawsuits that could point to you being loose and say, well, you didn't protect it here, so why are you protecting it now? Oh, Duralta, I hope so. It's 4:05. And you feel fine, so yes. It didn't fall out of my pocket. When I was in my jacket pocket, I took my jacket off. I carried my jacket over my arm. It slid out sideways. Do we understand? That's my theory. It didn't hop up out of my hip pocket. Are we good, everybody? Are we good? Because we had been walking for a long time. It was hot. I'm rolling a bag, and I've got two things over my arm, including my jacket. It slid out sideways somewhere, I guess at the end, because it was right there. That's what the dynamic is. No. Hi, Melanie. No proselytizing. Yeah. Well, it's a phrase, the perfect storm. That movie gave either the phrase may have existed before, but for sure after that movie, perfect. And that was like three things all happened together that made it a disaster. I'm talking about a morning with about 4 or 5 points. Yeah, that was one of the 5 or 6 points going against me. Joe wrote on the first season of Stargate. Okay, good for him. Joe Minoski, who is responsible for 47 coming to Star Trek. I get you, Pedro. That's cute. Not in the current mindset, for one thing. As long as the seasons say 10 episodes, they don't have enough episode slots to give to everybody on staff and give people on newbies coming up a shot, much less outside. When you had 26 a year, they had to fill them, and it made sense. And then they got over it helped to fill them, and they got over the legal hump. So you never say never, but the lay of the land, the landscape, the paradigms have to shift back again. Spectrum is green. Okay. Do I remember meeting Robert Burnett the first time? Was it at a convention? Yes, we were on a panel together. I do indeed remember. In fact, I was just telling the greater story, and that was a part of it, to somebody the other day. Somebody yesterday, actually. He did a little more than that. Like I said, he gave us 47 from Pomona College. because Melanie, when you're on camera, you wear a jacket, but I'm a mile away about to get on a shuttle bus. It's not a hotel con, guys. It's not a hotel con, guys. It's spread out. And unless you're even if you're at an adjacent hotel, you may have to walk a block or two outdoors to get from your room to the event space. And depending on your hotel and or the event space, it's, yeah. And you're footloose and fancy free. See, I guess I could have put my jacket inside my big honkin' bag that had my gear in it, but then it would be, yeah, which is something I might do next time. If it's ever that friggin' humid again that you feel like taking your jacket, sweating in it a little bit, I can do that. But this was, and while I was carrying and rolling, see, now after that, I put my jacket on the last few blocks as we got closer. I just didn't want to sweat in it for half an hour of walking in 80-degree humidity, 80% humidity. See how all this piles up? Yeah. I have walked this earth for a few decades. I've managed to make it this far along. But new situations and new combinations still pop up. There you go. Okay. Okay, this is fascinating, guys, but I'm trying to see if the chat will end. No, it would be in my hip pocket. It would be in my regular pants pocket, Christoph. That's where it should have been. But at the moment in the hotel, I just threw it there to make sure I had it on me to get out of the room. Spectrum of screen. Captain Scarlet says today once again, Jerry Anderson lawyers incoming. The tricorder idea to keep your phone safe. Yes, but then when you're using your phone for when you're using your phone for a camera, you'd be taking the strap on and off. Fast changes. Some people try to use Velcro and then eventually the Velcro gives out after you've used it a million times. Guys, that's the end of the chat. This has been lovely. I wanted to feel vulnerable and tell you my stupid thing, but there we go. We're out of here, gang. But where? Come on. Boom. Oh, there we are. Thanks so much for being here on a Tuesday. Again, no Trekland Tuesdays live next week. It'll be travel days going into Vegas, but everybody stay tuned to your interwebs. There'll be lots of fan channels, and I'm sure the podcasters and the YouTubers will be going at it, even if the mainstream media, of which was handling the heavy loads for Comic-Con, is not a part of Trek Vegas. It's a fraction of the size. Not being licensed, it doesn't have Paramount, CBS pumping behind it. But there'll be plenty. There'll be plenty of Roddenberry and plenty of Trek culture and plenty of Trek core and plenty of Trek movie, plenty of your news channels that you can depend on, and not your John Des Ossos or Arrows or whatever his name is again. Taking everything and twisting it to the dark side. So once again, everybody, happy Star Trek 60. Yeah. Get in touch with me if you're in need of a Trekland Treks day tour. You know, not just the summer, well beyond September 6th, the rest of the year, into next year. It's all good. Don't forget, a new Trek Files is up tonight with some more wacky history, the TNG that never was, what Gene thought about it before he took it back over. Yeah, with the great Ben Robinson as the guest. Trek Files and the Roddenberry Patreon through Discord. $1 a month. You can come in and be part of our community and all the rest of the Roddenberry communities. Every other Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern for Trekophiles tonight. Huge thanks once again to all of our Patreon folk. Thank you all so very, very, very much for keeping the basic bills and the lights on here going. That's awesome. And yeah, if you're interested, you too can help be in my Patreon. $5-10 a month. Very simple. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. And of course, all the Twitter, all the blue sky at Larry Nemechek, Larry's Trekland Instagram, Facebook even still, yeah. And most of all, YouTube. There'll be a new second opinion out this week. Be looking for that. After Vegas will be the launch of Season 2 of Cadet Alice and Dr. Trek Watch Prodigies. Season 2. Long overdue to get started. We'll wait for the fallow time of New Trek to start that. Portal47.net. Your backstage pass to more in-depth Trek. It's like a mini-con all year long. The guests, the insight, we go deeper dive even more on the things that I bring up here. Yes, not so much. The personal stuff is here. The funky, goofy stuff is here. Portal 47 is the Ask Dr. Treks are more a keeper. Trends and issues. Gang, it's so good to be back with you here again. Thanks, everybody, for being in shifts. People come and go. That's cool from around the world, wherever you're coming from. Try to join us next time in 2 weeks. The whole back catalog is here on YouTube if you're interested. There's an event, you want to go back and see what we were talking about. Specific guests and interviews, of course, are all there. Love for you to come on. And if you're watching an old TTL, leave a comment even then. It's all cool. People do. People come across things when they come across. Some are more controversial or topical than others. Sometimes the guests. It's all good. I really appreciate everybody being in and being here with us. And yeah, if you're watching this later on, maybe you in reverse can be with us live on a Tuesday. That would be awesome. We'll see you in a couple of weeks unless I see you at Trek Vegas. All right, kids, look for Second Opinion, though, and Trek Files every week. Till then, stay healthy. Do all the things. Stay awoke. Check your sources. And Trek well, everybody.